Breaking news, North Korea suspending talks with South Korea over South Korea-U.S. joint military drills. This is according to North Korean state news. That's what they are saying. So talks between the Koreas were supposed to resume tomorrow. And I want to bring in Robin Wright from the U.S. Institute of Peace and the Wilson International Center to break this down for us. Is this surprising? And what is this going to mean, Robin, for prospective talks between President Trump and Kim Jong-un?
Well, this was always a fragile process. There have been many attempts by previous administrations to engage with North Korea, and they have fallen at various junctures over specifics of deals, terms of negotiations, and so forth. I still think that there will be some kind of summit. I think both sides are terribly invested in this. North Korea is going to play a harder ball than I think President Trump realizes in his compliments about the actions taken by the regime in releasing American hostages and agreeing to a summit. But this is clearly, a momentary setback, and I think the administration will probably be scrambling to sort it out. In the past, the North Koreans have actually been rather surprising in their willingness to let South Korean and American military exercises carry on last month. And so it'll be interesting to see how significant this setback is.
What do you attribute this setback to? I mean, if the drills went on last month and there wasn't a hiccup over them, why is there this time?
Well, this is a breaking news story, and I'm not sure we know all the details yet. There are clearly concerns in North Korea about what the United States is deploying in the region in a backup to exercises or to drills. But the interesting thing about the Inter-Korean summit that took place at the end of April between the leaders of North and South Korea was that the North Korean leader did not bring up the issue of American troops. We have 28,000 Americans based in South Korea, critical to the defense of the South for almost 7 decades now. And it was always assumed that the North would demand the withdrawal of all those forces as part of a peace process. And in fact, Kim Jong-un did not make that provision when they met. So it's a little unclear why he would suddenly, at this point, make an issue of it.
All right, Robin, stand by for us as we follow this breaking news that North Korea is suspending talks with South Korea because of joint military exercises between South Korea and the U.S. According to North Korea's state news agency, these talks that were set to resume tomorrow are now on hold. And I want to bring in David Priest. He's a former CIA officer who's going to help us understand some of this. So this is breaking, David. We're still waiting for some information as you join our panel here. What do you make of this?
Yeah, if only someone could have anticipated this. Because almost literally every expert anticipated this. This is what all of the Korean negotiators had said. This is what all the people...
It's not going to go as smoothly as things seem to be?
Yes.
Just that?
Specifically that North Korea is going to find ways to gain advantage before talks open. That's what the North Koreans have always done. And by putting a brave face forward, they've tried to make it look like everything has changed. Well, we haven't seen the signs that things really have changed. And this is more evidence, in fact, that they're playing the same game they've played before when we've gone through these cycles of pretending to walk back, but then looking for concession after concession before making first steps.
So why do you call this a game? Because does it seem arbitrary to you?
I don't think it's arbitrary. They have wanted these exercises canceled in the past.
But they didn't raise a fuss about it last month.
Yeah, and it's an interesting question why. I suspect it's because now there is an investment from the President of the United States. He is committed to these talks. He's talked about the location. He's said great things are happening. He's not talking about Little Rocket Man anymore. He's talking about, in a sense, his legacy of being able to do something that President Obama could not do. Once North Korea knows that he's invested in that way, it's a little bit easier to pick this off and to show that the guy who wrote The Art of the Deal isn't the best deal maker on this.
Yeah, maybe pull the rug out from underneath him a little bit. All right, we will see. David Priest, stand by for us. We have a whole lot more on this breaking news. North Korea suspending talks with South Korea, which is a key part, obviously, of the peace process. Suspending those talks, according to North Korean state news, because of military drills between the U.S. and South Korea. We're getting more details. We'll bring them to you after a quick break. We have breaking news just into CNN. North Korea has suspended talks with South Korea that were supposed to resume tomorrow. This has to do with South Korea-U.S. joint military drills. We're still working out some of the details here. But North Korea has said, according to the state-run news agency, that the U.S. should carefully consider the North Korea-U.S. summit in view of what it calls, quote, provocative military disturbances with South Korea. And joining me now is former Rear Admiral, retired Rear Admiral John Kirby. He's a former State Department spokesman, former Pentagon spokesman, and he's our CNN military and diplomatic analyst. What are you reading into this development? Perhaps not completely unexpected, but we were waiting to see what North Korea's move might be ahead of these talks.
You know, in previous years, I would have said this is completely expected. I mean, they had that last year when we did this exercise, they launched off a bunch of missiles in protest. And this isn't the biggest exercise we do with the South Koreans. In fact, it's one of the smaller ones. Last year it was about 1,500 troops altogether. It's largely an air exercise. So in previous years, Brianna, I would say this reaction is totally expected for them to overreact like this. But you would think that given the prospect of a summit and the fact that Kim certainly appears to want to sit down with President Trump, that gives him the status he wants. It puts him on the world stage. This is not what I would have expected, quite frankly, from North Korea at this particular time. So it's really perplexing to me under these circumstances, given the stakes that we're facing here and potentially in June with a meeting between Trump and Kim Jong-un, that this would be the logical step for them. It almost seems like there's something off here. There's something that just doesn't quite compute.
So to you, this is something that under ordinary circumstances, you might expect for them to kind of throw this the way of the U.S., but that things are just at such an extraordinary place right now that you are surprised.
I am surprised. This threw me for a loop here. In fact, when I first saw the original press report, I thought it had to be wrong. There's just no way that this could have been what their reaction was. Remember, Brianna, when we did Full Eagle, which was a much bigger exercise just a couple months ago, they didn't react. They didn't even put out a press release. They certainly didn't fire off any missiles. They were very quiet. There was no testing like they've done before. And I think all that, plus the lead up to getting those 3 Americans released, those detainees, was all part of a very carefully constructed framework of confidence building measures that North Korea was exacting to show that they were serious about sitting down to a summit. So they were very quiet. Now, maybe now that we've got the Americans back, and maybe something's changed in their calculus, but I got to be honest with you, this just doesn't make sense given how restrained we've seen them be in just the last couple of months.
All right, if you can stand by for me, Admiral,
Sure.
I want to bring in Paula Hancock. She's our correspondent there in Seoul. Paula, what do you make of this, that South Korea and North Korea are suspending talks? They were supposed to resume tomorrow, and you have North Korea citing these joint military exercises between South Korea and the U.S.
Well, Brianna, I'm with John. I mean, this is quite a surprising development, and those high-level talks are expected to start, or were supposed to start today. It's already Wednesday here. It's about 4:30 in the morning, and it was just a matter of hours away before the high-level delegation from South Korea was going to leave Seoul and head up to the DMZ to talk with their North Korean counterparts. So certainly it is an unusual development, considering just a couple of months ago, the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un, through the South Korean delegation who went to see him, we didn't hear this directly from him, did say that he understood the need for these joint military drills. Now, this was ahead of the Full Eagle drill, which every year infuriates North Korea. We didn't see a reaction to that Full Eagle drill. But what we are seeing in this KCNA report, the state-run media, is that they believe that these Max Thunder drills, the Air Force drills, are against the Panmunjom Declaration, saying that that there shouldn't be hostilities between the two Koreas. The US, South Korea consistently say that these kind of military drills are defensive, they're annual, they are necessary to keep the two militaries ready. But from North Korea's point of view, in the past, they have always seen them as offensive. They have seen them as a dress rehearsal to an invasion. This is the sort of thing that we are used to hearing from the previous North Korea, not the North Korea we have seen in recent months. So certainly it's a very interesting development. One other point as well is the fact that North Korea suggested these high-level talks just on Tuesday. So it's still Tuesday in the US. It's very recent that they suggested these talks, and now within less than 24 hours, they are saying that they should be suspended, obviously hoping or pushing for these military drills to be cancelled.
All right, Paula Hancock, stand by for us as we dig deeper into this. A really stunning turn of events as North Korea, South Korea talks, which were supposed to resume tomorrow, North Korea has now put a halt to. Of course, this precipitating what was supposed to be a meeting between President Trump and Kim Jong-un. Where does that leave everything? Let's take a listen to the State Department reacting just moments ago to this.
So I just saw that report as I was coming out here, so we haven't had a whole lot of time to dig into that. I will say that Kim Jong-un had said previously that he understands the need and the utility of the United States and the Republic of Korea continuing in its joint exercises. They're exercises that are legal, they're planned well in advance. We have not heard anything from that government or the government of South Korea to indicate that we would not continue conducting these exercises or that we would not continue planning for our meeting between President Trump and Kim Jong-un next month.
So they didn't tell you anything about?
We have no information on that whatsoever. What we have to go on is what Kim Jong-un had said before, that he understands and appreciates the importance to the United States of having these joint exercises. The Republic of Korea has as well. We've received no formal or even informal notification of anything.
So you continue to plan the summit as?
Absolutely. We will continue to go ahead and plan the meeting between President Trump and Kim Jong-un.
Isn't a report from the official North Korean news agency at least an informal notice?
Did it actually go out on there? Because I got this just as I was walking out here, so I haven't had a chance to fully sit down and investigate, but this is, that would be news to me.
It's
So,
good.
okay, great.
They're calling the exercises provocative, and they're calling them.
Well, they're certainly not provocative. These are things that we do all around the world with many of our partners and allies. These are things that have occurred for decades and decades. Again, I'll say this for a third time, Kim Jong-un had said that he understands the importance to the United States that we conduct these joint exercises. These joint exercises continue to go on. So, okay. Hi.
Wow, John Kirby, can you react to that, especially as someone who used to occupy that podium? I mean, Heather Nauert, the spokesperson for the State Department, coming out for the briefing, getting wind of this right before she goes out there, and the U.S. government has heard absolutely nothing about this, that these talks between South Korea and North Korea have been suspended.
Yeah, it just shows you just how perplexing this really is. I've been in that situation where you're walking out to the podium and somebody hands you a slip of paper and you got to react to it in real time. I think she did as good as could be expected there. She kept coming back to that one line that Paula reiterated in your interview with Paula just a few minutes ago, that Kim Jong-un did say that he understood the need for exercises to continue, that he wasn't going to get animated by it, which just makes this decision all the more confusing. It's absolutely contravenes everything that the North has said that they mean to do in the lead up to the summit. Let's forget about denuclearization and what the results of the summit are going to be. This just doesn't compute. It doesn't make sense with what we've seen them say and how they have actually reacted in real time, tangibly, to the lead up to the summit. So it's very confusing. I understand the spot that she's in, but I think she handled it about as good as you could possibly do it.
I mean, truly. And it's interesting, though, is she's saying, well, this isn't what we've heard from them before. I mean, what we're hearing from North Korean state news appears to be a complete reversal, the sort of pulling out from underneath the administration, the rug, as they're completely surprised by what they're hearing from North Korea.
Well, and that's a great point, Brian. And that's the other thing I'd say is, remember, there's been no official notification, apparently, according to Heather, and I would take her at her word on this, official notification from Pyongyang to the United States side about these exercises. And make no mistake, this isn't just a South Korean exercise. It's a bilateral exercise. We normally contribute the bulk of the resources to it, so we are very much a key player in this. You would think there would be some sort of official notification. And the fact that that hasn't happened yet still makes me just a little queasy about how authentic this story really is. I mean, I get the press reporting on it, but I think if I was sitting in her shoes, I would want to see official government-to-government notification that this exercise is really causing a break in the summit discussions before I would overreact to it.
All right, John Kirby, stay with us as we follow this breaking news. We're going to have much more on this, plus more on the president's meeting with Republicans.